Representing this year's medalists is Dan Kleppner, whose convocation address is entitled Epiphanies at Williams.
It is a great honor to be awarded the Bicentennial Medal, and I wish to add my congratulations to those of the college, to my fellow medal winners, whose accomplishments are really so remarkable. It is also a great honor to be asked to talk at this induction of Williams' newest president. It is not traditional. In fact, it is highly unusual for a liberal arts institution to select a scientist to be its president. But today, Williams College is inducting Adam Falk, a theoretical physicist. I suspect that my profession may have something to do with this invitation to talk. Possibly the hope is that because I am not only a Williams alumnus, but also a physicist, I can offer some reassurance to the community that even though Williams will be in the hands of a theoretical physicist, there is no serious cause for alarm. So let me start by attempting to assuage any concerns you may have about having a theoretical physicist as president. I can do this authoritatively because by one of those strange coincidences, 21 years ago, I met Adam Falk just as he was about to start graduate school. My wife Beatrice and I were running the US end of a Japan-US program for very bright undergraduate students in science and mathematics that brought together a group of students from the United States and Japan with a group of scientific luminaries. The goal of the program was visionary. It was simply that this group would contain some of the leaders of tomorrow, and somehow something good would come out of the encounter. A colleague, Tom Clegg, at the University of North Carolina, told us of an extraordinary student he had by the name of Adam Falk, and Adam joined the program. In anticipation of today's event, Beatrice managed to excavate Adam's application from among the papers in our attic. The applications had been evaluated independently by a group of the alumni and were ranked not only for intellectual prowess and creative promise, but for personal savvy and social skill. Adam's application essay pointed out the value of cross-pollination between different fields of science and between different cultures. He pointed out the excitement that can be generated by personally encountering a leader, particularly in a field far from one's own. If he had been applying for the presidency of Williams College at that time, the essay might have done the job. Adam's was the only application to get a top rating, in fact, a star rating from every one of the readers. So I can credibly report that Adam Falk is not a late bloomer, but a born star. Anyone who still remains uneasy at the thought of a theoretical physicist at the helm of Williams College should be reassured by his great success at the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences at Johns Hopkins. And if you yet have misgivings, a short conversation with Adam on any subject of your choice should convince you that Williams has lucked out in obtaining him for its new president. I should mention that I did not clear this proposal with Adam. This is the kind of risk that comes with your new job. Okay? The future of Williams College with Adam Falk as president looks very bright. It was suggested to me that I say something about my Williams experience and my career in science. At the panel this morning, I talked a little about work in physics, and so I proposed to describe here some of the experiences at Williams that launched me into my career. I entered Williams with a predilection for physics. This was partly due to the influence of an older brother who liked mechanical things, though he later deserted reality for mathematics. However, the major influence was a charismatic high school teacher, Arthur B. Hussey. Furthermore, physics was glamorous. Einstein had long been a cult figure and physicists were national heroes because of their role in the Second World War. Williams did a wonderful job of launching me into my career, but my experience here was not totally smooth. The first jolt was an epiphanic experience that occurred during the freshman week in September 1950, By means of full disclosure, I should say that I did not learn the words epiphany and epiphanic until the following year. In case they are not part of your vocabulary, an epiphany is a sudden vision that changes your views of something important. This epiphanic experience occurred when Fred Stocking gave a warm-up talk about what to expect in freshman English. He picked apart Shakespeare's sonnet, "That time of year thou mayest in me behold." I had a weak background in English and knew little about the possibilities of language or the richness and meanings in literature. Fred Stocking's lecture opened a new world. The situation was euphoric, or so it seems in memory after all these years. And for a couple of years, I gorged myself with English. I recalled classes with Jack Ludwig, Richard Poirier, Don Gifford, and Clay Hunt, as well as Fred Stocking. Fred and Clay had occasional evenings at home in which they invited a few freshmen to decipher and discuss their poems. To attract this personal interest by my professors was not only deeply flattering, it gave me confidence and in some way altered my expectations for myself. I must confess, however, that the only specific details I remember from those evenings was that Clay Hunt detested the music of Johannes Brahms. Clay Hunt was a very forceful personality, and I did not argue the point with him. At Williams, I started to memorize poems that I now carry as a personal treasure. Shakespeare's sonnet was at the top of the list. In addition to my heady engagement with English, I recall being jolted by a history course by Bob Waite, whose passionate condemnation of glib thoughts still rings. Also, survey courses in art by Lane Faison and music by Erwin Shainman opened new avenues of pleasure. Without laboring the issue, I wish to go on record as being an enthusiast for the humanities and a liberal arts education for a career in science, and for that matter, a career in anything. As an undergraduate, I thought little about careers, except that I knew that I liked physics. My expectations for doing well in my first physics course were modest, and when I received a good grade, I was inordinately pleased. However, I received an even more tangible boost from the physics faculty. I came to Williams with an idea for an electromechanical device, something of a forerunner to cybernetics. Ralph Winch, the department chairman, found lab space for me, and Howard Stabler took the time to teach me some of the electronic facts of life. The project initiated me into the practice of experimental research, the pleasure of working throughout the night in solitude, the frustrations of experimental breakdowns, the pleasure of learning new skills, and the unique joy which comes when something finally works. One detail stands out, though it probably is exaggerated in memory: the pleasure of a cup of coffee and a donut in the early hours of the morning at a little shop on Spring Street, and I believe the coffee and donut cost either 10 cents together or maybe 25 cents. My tutorship with Howard Stabler reinforced my view of the academic life as being both elevated and austere. He had a necktie with a spot at its center, worn through from hours of leaning against the lecture table as he talked. His unworldliness in ignoring the hole in his tie was, to me, exemplary. I would like to describe two other epiphanic experiences involving Williams College, one of my own and one, I think, of Williams. Outside of class, I was not really happy. Primarily, this was because I was socially immature, which is the politically correct way of saying that I had few friends, lacked grace, and was not good at competing for the attention of women. However, it dawned on me that Williams itself was profoundly socially immature. The Williams fraternity system was an obvious anachronism. Williams' tradition of leaving the social life to the fraternities, essentially in private hands, seemed to me to be an abrogation of the college's responsibility to assure a healthy environment for its students. I know that many of the faculty shared my view about fraternities, but I was surprised that the administration seemed to be so accepting. I screwed up my courage and went to speak with the president, James Finney Baxter III, to find out how Williams planned to deal with its social problem. To President Baxter's credit, he showed no hesitation in meeting with an unknown sophomore. The meeting did not go well, however, because it quickly emerged that he believed the fraternities were the backbone of Williams and that the fraternity system was splendid. This was pretty discouraging. It suddenly dawned on me that possibly there was an alternative to spending 4 years at Williams. I think of this as an epiphany because it caused an extreme and unexpected change of heart for me and, of course, a change in plans. Some years after I graduated, Williams too underwent an epiphany and profoundly changed its vision of itself. With the advent of John Sawyer as president, residential houses replaced fraternities, and later Williams became coeducational. From all I have heard and all I have seen, not to mention some of the comments made by my fellow panelists this morning, these transformations have vastly improved the college. If I were a student today, I might well be scheming to prolong my stay at Williams rather than to shorten it. But in 1952, I made plans for getting away. I attempted to arrange a junior abroad, but the Korean War was underway and the draft board took a dim view of leaving the country. However, the physics faculty was sympathetic with my desire to move on. So with the assistance of a supportive faculty and a sympathetic dean, I devised a schedule that let me graduate at the end of my junior year. Following the advice of David Park, who joined the physics department that year, I applied to graduate school at Harvard and also applied for a Fulbright fellowship in England. The plan worked well. Harvard accepted me and then deferred admission when I won a Fulbright to Cambridge University for 2 years. Life at Cambridge turned out to be a delight. Because of the charms of the ancient university, and possibly because the Fulbright Commission gave us a stipend adjusted to the cost of living in the United States, which was much, much higher than the cost of living in Great Britain, I was wealthy, alas, for only 2 years. My social skills improved. And on the ship returning to England following my first year abroad, I met my future wife. Although our encounter was a social catastrophe, I made a silly quip and fell over the coffee table. My social skills had actually improved to the point that I could eventually recover from the fiasco. And we recently celebrated our 52nd anniversary. My tutor at Cambridge, Kenneth Smith, was a young physicist working in the new field of atomic beams. From him, I first heard about the possibility of measuring the effect of gravity on time with an atomic clock. The idea intrigued me and turned out to play an important role in my graduate career. When I returned to the US and started graduate work at Harvard, I became a student of Harvard and Norman Ramsey's group. This work eventually led to the creation of the hydrogen maser and the applications which were mentioned this morning and in the citation. They were unexpected, they're exciting, and it makes me feel very proud to have been part of these larger applications of science. Since 1966, I have been on the faculty at MIT, which is an institution as different in form and spirit from Williams College as one could imagine. However, the ideas, enthusiasms, and approach to scholarship and teaching that have carried me through my career can one way or another all be traced to Williams. As any teacher can attest, perhaps the greatest joy of teaching is to be thanked by your students in later years. I kept in contact with some of my Williams teachers, though hardly any of them are around today for me to thank. Of the physics faculty, only David Park is with us. Beatrice and I have been friends with David and his late wife Clara over the years, and such a friendship brings a great richness to life. I also maintained occasional contact with Fred Stocking, who died last year. I regret that I never got around to asking him why he chose Shakespeare's sonnet about age and death to entice freshmen into English, given that freshmen feel they are immortal. Perhaps his exact reasoning was irrelevant, however, for whatever it was, his scheme worked with me. The personal attention from faculty that was so important to me at Williams was due not only to the generosity of my teachers individually, but to Williams College itself and the Williams ethos, which esteemed such contact and made my education possible. One rarely has an opportunity to say thank you to an institution, but this is such an opportunity, and I want to take it. Thank you, Williams College.